that allows me to broadcast and have meetings with you guys. And Juan's system had been going down to like 3 megabits a second at times and really affecting the quality of this meeting. And I'm pleasantly surprised to have returned to Mexico, and he's got a pretty consistent 10 megabits a second for me to go up with. I didn't ask for, well, I did. I asked for it a year ago, but we haven't talked recently. I wouldn't want to imply that he's done this special for me. I'm assuming all his customers are having this kind of capacity going out. And as a result, I think I'm probably looking pretty good, and you guys are looking and sounding pretty good. So between...
Are you in Mexico?
I am in Mexico now. You wouldn't know it because of the quality conversation we're having right now. But yeah, I've just gotten back to San Carlos. And everything seems to be running well against these two computers. As long as nothing blows up during this meeting, this will be the in-person setup. So if you've had a chance to look at our document for today, I've added some things to it. Oh, and let me say, I might as well start. It's 10 o'clock. This is the San Carlos Computer Club. I'm Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions. If you're looking for a solution out there on the internet, give me a shot. Check out my website, internationalcs.net. And this is the San Carlos Computer Club. I am clicking on the wrong thing. Let me click on the right thing. We meet every Tuesday from 10 o'clock till, I don't know, 11:30-ish. We definitely run through 2 meetings. And we all have some ties in San Carlos. But at the moment, I'm wondering if I'm the only one in this group that's in San Carlos. I think that's the case, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're there in spirit. Scott.
Oh, here comes another person from San Carlos. Dave's coming to join us. Welcome, Dave.
So, Scott, I got a comment, early comment.
Good, good.
I want to congratulate the United States Space Agency for duplicating what Superman probably did 50 or 60 years ago and threw something at an asteroid and hit
it. That was awesome, wasn't it? That was
pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, I was blown away. I like, they did it. They did it. They hit an asteroid. And then in the back of my mind, there's this conspiracy theorist in me going, now, if we just bumped something off its axis and created our own demise, I'm going to be very upset.
Exactly. That's my exact thoughts. Okay, now you've taken it off of its own stable orbit, and it's going to come and hit us.
Yeah, where's it going to go now?
Sort of like a bee. Come after us because we swatted them.
Right, exactly.
Come after us now.
Have they established that it, in fact, have changed its projection?
No, and that's what I was going to mention is they keep saying they got to analyze data for weeks before they'll have any indication of what kind of... I mean, this really was the kind of let's hit it and see what happens. I hope... I mean, they're really smart people. I hope they would happen so that they wouldn't have done this nonchalantly. Because I'm kind of like, yeah, we're kind of like clockwork. Everything kind of happens in its own pace and has its own thing going. Everything's mathematically predictable, and you've just tweaked something. So
the asteroid is stadium size, I understand, and the projectile is refrigerator size. So it was going pretty fast, though. So
yeah.
What the speed is phenomenal.
Yeah, 15,000 K, I think, or maybe it was miles an hour.
What was the size of the rock? What was the size of the rock?
The rock was the size of a stadium, like a Super Bowl, like. So it's not going to, I don't think that it'll move it much. So I think that's why they're going to have trouble measuring. Maybe not trouble, but it won't be like a huge number, but they'll be able to calculate from it anyway.
Well, the way I understand it, they measure from when it goes around it, it's like it orbits another asteroid.
Getting feedback from you, Cheryl.
Yes, Cheryl.
Let me mute Cheryl, or Cheryl can mute herself. It's just bleeding through to the other
Yeah,
speaker.
Cheryl
Yeah.
is sitting in the same room as me. Anyway,
Okay.
they somehow have to wait until it makes an orbit and comes out from behind this other asteroid and measure something there, and then they got to wait until it goes around again. That's one of the major reasons for the delay in measuring.
So I'm not wrong. This is an asteroid they picked that goes around. It's going to come back.
Another bigger asteroid.
Yeah, I sure hope they've got that like 90% like locked in, where it's like the range of possibilities for where this asteroid goes are nowhere near being a problem for us. Next year we're going to get a report from, well, we analyzed all the data and Venus is off its axis now.
Well, Scott, that's just why the Senate never votes 60% in any one direction.
They can never get that accurate.
That's right.
Yeah, I have confidence in really smart people doing smart experiments. There's just this little nagging conspiracy theory person inside me going, oh, I just hoping, relying and hoping. I'm in conflict. Hey, before I get too far away, I just wanted to thank Cheryl for being in charge of the last meeting. I listened to most of it. I didn't get a chance to participate, but it seemed like it went really well. And I wanted to take a moment and just talk about all the meeting notifications and explain that. And since there's 7 of us here today, maybe I'll explain it again next week as well. But it seems really important to me that you guys understand what you're getting, because it's very difficult to send the next meeting code to Cheryl that we've been using all along. And that's why you'll find in the document and the email I sent you that there is a new meeting code that we're gonna start using. And that meeting code is associated with an event. And that's the big distinction between the last meeting code we had and this one, is the last one had never been associated with an event. And while not being associated with an event, we can still use it. I'm not able to hand that to Cheryl so that she can let people into that event if necessary, because it's not an event, it's just a meet. And so what your notifications that you've been getting have been for joining that event and adding it to your Google Calendar. And what I believe will happen, which has been different than the way we've done it in the past, is that you will be authorized on each meet. So I won't need to give you permission to get into the meet. And I've seen this system fail, but if you add this to your Google Calendar, this second meet, well, I'm assuming the first meet's already on your calendar. If you add this second meet to your calendar, then you should be able to go from one meet to the other without me making sure you get in. That's the goal. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I would just say that, a couple of things happened with last week, but I'm happy to do it. I just have been inundated with people either declining or accepting and then wondering if they declined the right thing. So Linda Gerber needs to be. Judy sent me a message saying that she's on her way and she will be in San Carlos on the 28th, which is tomorrow. So just to update everybody on that. We'll have another person in San Carlos as of tomorrow.
Woohoo!
And the other one was Dr. Maggie. Dr. Maggie accepted it, and then she said, I think I've deleted it. I don't know what I've done. Could you please tell Scott I need to be invited again? So I'm doing that.
Okay. Okay. And so Maggie as well. I'm just putting that in our notes here. And nobody needs the invite unless they want to put it on their calendar. And I recommend putting it on your Google Calendar because there's a very good chance you could just enter the meet without me having to authorize you. You wouldn't wait. You'd just be in. If nobody was there, if you're the first one there, you'd be the first one there.
So in accepting the invitation, is that the same as putting it on your calendar?
Yes.
Because it seems that like Jim Cunningham accepted the invitation. I got an email regarding that. I didn't get emails from other people accepting it, so I don't know it. When you say put it in your calendar, exactly what do you do to do that?
No, that's a very good question. And you already said it. When you accept it, it should follow through and end up in your Google Calendar. Now, I think that there's another step. I think you should be, when you accept it, I think you should be looking at the calendar entry, and I think you should be hitting save at that point. When you accept it, but I think that's going to look different depending on your platform.
I think that what I had to do was I had to, like I was on my iPhone, and I had to assign it to a calendar. So I can assign it to my iCloud calendar. I can assign it to Cheryl's birthday calendar. I've got different calendars that I view.
I think what would matter in that instance is that it's getting put on your Google Calendar, whatever you call
Gmail.
that. Yeah, your
My
Gmail calendar. That's
Yeah.
right. The one associated with the Gmail account that you're using to get into this meeting. So it can't be on a different one. The invite was sent to that email address. I can send the invite to a different email address, just give it to me. But whatever calendar you put it on has to be associated with the invite address. And then I think you'll be able to get in, or at least reasonably 90% of the time get in without having to wait for permission. And your what was it I was going to say? Without permission. No, I guess that's it. No, there was another thing there, and it just floated away. Like it must not be important, huh? It's gone. Gone. I have no idea what that second thing was.
Well, could I just save this email that we received this morning? I'm not familiar with the calendar discussion. Could I just save this email and click on it from time to time?
Absolutely, Chester. In fact, thank you, because that was the second point. The second point was you don't have to do any of this as long as you have the Meet code. If you have the Meet code and you click on it and it opens up the Meet, it's going to ask you to wait until you can join. And then somebody's going to come along like myself or Cheryl and click join, and you're going to be able to get into the Meet at that point. And so, I mean, in the end, you don't need any of this, but it's just the convenience of being able to get in. And so you don't have to have it on your calendar. You don't have to accept it, because anybody that has the Meet code is going to pop up in our Meet, and I'm going to have to authorize them whether they want to get in or not. You could forward that invitation. And in fact, I think I put that on most of my stuff, is forward it to anyone that wants to join us, because they can get into this with this information. It's not limited to the people that got the invitation. It's just the people that got the invitation. I sent out an invitation to you at your Gmail account, Chester, and you accept it and put it on your Gmail calendar under that address. Then when you show up, and you've done that obviously, because you show up and I don't have to let you in, you just let yourself in. This second Meet, when we run out of time, is the one we're talking about, and nobody can get into that automatically. I have to accept that for everybody coming in. And again, it's just not that important a point.
I have another subject.
Yes, Chester, go ahead.
Do any of you know my old friend Jack Frost?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
His
absolutely.
wife died. His wife Susan passed away.
No. When did that happen?
Last day or so. I just got word this morning.
Oh, wow.
She's had lung cancer for many, many years. She was a heavy smoker like my wife.
Yeah. Well, she's a tough lady too. I actually know Susan better than I know Jack, but I know them both really well. They've been good customers for years.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sad to hear that.
I've known them for 30 years.
Wow.
I moved to San Carlos exactly 30 years ago.
That's amazing, Chester.
To the day, Chester?
No, it was in May, actually.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So it's 30 years plus.
yeah.
I'm on 25 plus. I moved to San Carlos in June 25 years ago.
It's
So-
very different then.
Oh gosh, yes.
I
Morning,
visited
Mom.
too.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, Chester, you caught me off guard with that one. Oh, another thing on my list is in-person meetings. Nobody's in San Carlos, so this is a hard discussion to have. Well, I guess Dave's in San Carlos. If you're listening, Dave, you have any opinion on going back to in-person meetings? Any opinions out there at all? Biden said we were done with COVID. For whatever that's worth.
Yep. Well, anyway, I think I enjoy the in-person meetings, but you need to have enough people. And there's people like, I can't think of his name. He goes by the nickname of Guzzy. Guzzy. Oh, lives way in the back of the Ranchitos. Really nice house.
You're not about Jim.
Jim,
yeah. Big
Sevich.
guy.
Jim spelled?
Sevich, S-E-V. You know, he used to attend all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and as far as I understand, him and Mike would be interested in getting back to it.
And the guy that rode the Moto Guzzi, he had motorcycles, a big guy. He put in these sun panels so he could get electricity.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's
Jim.
Jim. That's who we're talking about there.
Oh, okay.
Jesse. Yeah.
He's also got an MGB that he drives all the time these days too.
Yeah, he's on Viva all the time. I'm kind of surprised that, I sat on the end of the table and the two guys next to me were always there. And I'm surprised they haven't joined this group on the internet.
One is Gary, and Gary does not do internet meetings. He said that, and he's been trying to get back to San Carlos, but he's been stuck in British Columbia for, I guess he didn't make it last year or the year before.
You're talking about Sampson, Gary Sampson?
Yeah, Gary Sampson. Yeah. I know I think he might be trying again this year. We're friends on Facebook, and he's still doing his music and everything. But, yeah, he tries.
I've talked to him. Oh, go ahead, Chester. I'm sorry.
We used to have up to 25 participants. Quite frequently.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact,
the advantages of in-person is that certain people who do certain things, and it's pretty easy to ask them directly, where you almost don't want to disturb them by even doing something like calling them unless it's something more important to you that you're trying to find out.
Well, just that in-person stuff. There's always, we found it with remote work too, is you just have to go into the office sometimes. You've got all this synergy that happens when you're just 6 feet away from somebody, where ideas and things that just don't come up when we're all sitting behind our screens like that.
Yeah. I did a lot of work, performance work on computers remotely, and it worked kind of okay. I would say when I was in person, a lot of times I would be talking to something, and I might either see them doing something, or they might make some very minor comment that would trigger off what was the total solution to why their computer ran wrong, that I never would tend to find out if I wasn't there in person.
David, I was just going to make a similar kind of comment. I was just in Arizona doing work for this company that I've been doing some app development for, and they wanted me to come into the office for 2 days and just hang around and check with people, and we had a meeting where discussing ideas in the app that I've developed and what needed to be changed and what would be useful to have. And it was just so much more productive than the back and forth chat that we've been doing. It's funny because I come from a culture where no meetings, meetings waste time. But there's definitely a time to have a meeting. There's definitely a time where people feel differently about the way they're sharing information.
One person we were wondering about is Bob. Michaela Bob. I don't know.
Oh.
He lives on the Caracal on the corner there,
Yeah,
but his
yeah.
house has been for sale this summer. We've noticed that his house is for sale. I know they have another home in Arizona somewhere, I think, but haven't heard anything from Bob in a long time.
Yeah, I'm curious if he would come back. He's an interesting character. I want to out him. I want to out him right now because I'm a little frustrated with him because he's had a bill at my office that he's not going to pay. He's made it clear he's not going to pay it. And it's both to work that I've done for him, and work that my wife's done for him. And so instead of getting back and working it out, he's just disappeared. Yeah, I guess I'm outing him in the computer club. Sorry, guys. I might do this. I might do the same thing to you in the future. I think I'm a very reasonable person to do business with, and Bob has proven to be a cheap person to do business with all the time, and he doesn't want to pay these bills, and so
I guess
I better be careful.
it could be the fine print that we have been warned.
Well, and Chester, you have nothing to worry about. I mean, I have such great experiences with my customers. I don't waste a lot of time working for people that are questionable. And Chester's good at paying right on time, right when I need it. There's no doubt in my mind if I went to Jamie right now, because he knows I would be doing work for him in a couple of weeks. I have nothing but the best.
PayPal makes it easy.
It sure does.
PayPal
And I have
makes it
nothing
easy.
but the best of stories about all you folks that I've done work for. I'm looking across our board, and I don't have any of this kind of sentiment towards anybody that's with us right now. And to be honest, Bob's on a short list.
Be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful, Scott. You've got two that are related to you. You know,
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do business with family. So
All I know is family business. It's all I've ever done is family business. What was I gonna say though? Come back to me, please. Come back to me.
well, the topic
Anyway.
was meeting in person.
Oh,
So meeting in
yeah.
person.
So
Yeah,
I don't know if Bob will come
we
back or not, but let me guarantee you, Bob's on a very short list in my office. A very short list, easily less than this many people. So yeah, going back to in-person meetings, I'm kind of in the lexicon now of yeah, we should be doing it. We should be getting back to in-person meetings. I'm not seeing the threat anymore.
Has anyone heard from Maggie?
Cheryl was saying that she heard from Maggie sometime between now and last meeting. And so she just wants to
all
get
I really heard was an email saying, I think I've done something wrong. I think I've deleted the invitation. Could you have Scott send it again? So that's all I heard from Maggie.
Okay. Well, and that's on my to-do list. I will send her another invitation. Though, again, I'll re-emphasize it doesn't matter. It just makes it easier for accepting and putting it in your calendar. Another thing that I have on our list is, has anybody updated to iOS 16 yet? It was originally released 15 days ago, and you have to actually look for it on your iOS device. I'm not saying that you should update to 16 yet. I'm just looking for anybody that has updated to it. It has been available for the last 15 days, and within those 2 working weeks, there's already been 2 iterations on it. That means they've had to fix something twice now. That is actually my yardstick for determining whether it's safe to consider installing it on your device. I typically wait 2 more iterations after the new release, and I think they've got the majority of the issues worked out by then, and I think it's safe to update too. I have not done the update yet. And one of the things that I would say is that I've been reading about certain people having battery issues after the update. And so that's
My
kind
wife
of...
actually upgraded to 16 because she actually switched from Android to the iPhone 13 Pro and only had it a few weeks and had hardly started to use it. So she decided, might as well switch to the latest and do my education on that. And she's had no problems, or I'd have heard about it instantly.
And she's had just what she would consider typical battery life.
Yes, but I think I've seen a couple things on battery life of certain things that you can start and it runs all the time in the background.
Mm.
And so she hadn't had problems, but I would not call either one of us typical users. We do not watch many videos, things like that.
Right.
You know, we tend to use it more with email and stuff. We don't use it with, for instance, we hardly ever sign on to Google. We hardly, in my case, Microsoft, I hardly ever sign on to Microsoft.
So what you've got is a device very similar to how I run an old Android or an old Amazon Fire tablet. It's got nothing on it except for those 1 or 2 purpose uses. It's not filled up with all this side stuff.
Yeah, she doesn't use it as much anywhere near the amount of side stuff. She uses the camera a lot. She uses her email a lot, which, by the way, don't forget, it's on our own domain.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't get spam. We don't get a lot of crap because of that. So it's quite a bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
we don't, that sort of stuff. I use, Google Contacts only occasionally to sync it back to my Outlook one, which is my primary, contact list.
I just checked both my iPhone and my iPad, and according to mine, iOS 15.7, iOS is up to date. I don't even have 16 as an option.
So in the software updater, and again, I'm not encouraging you to update. That is a decision you have to make on your own, but you've heard my philosophy behind it. And let me add again, before hitting an update button, I'm a big proponent of making sure that there is a full backup of your device. And if you're paying for iCloud, then you've got a full backup in the iCloud. I would just verify that it was backed up before you do an update. If you're not paying for iCloud, then you can connect it to iTunes on your computer, and you can force a full backup. And what's beautiful about that backup is that if everything goes wrong with your phone, you can restore from that backup, and it'll be exactly the same phone as right before you did the backup. And so I encourage you to make sure you have a backup. And then, so with that being said, because I don't want anybody to I don't want to get anybody into trouble, under general, under software updates, and if you look at the bottom of your screen, Cheryl, if you've got a qualifying device, it should have at the bottom the ability to install iOS 16.
So On my software update, it says that, like, my automatic updates are off.
Do you have
And
any?
usually
Do you have any scroll? If you scroll up, do you see anything?
nope, up or down. Usually under general software update, that's where I see it. And that
Sure.
I just don't even have it available.
Cheryl, it sounds
that's
like
on-
that
on-
device is about to go out of date.
Well, no, also on my iPad, which is brand new,
Well,
general.
then maybe it's taking a while to roll out. This did come available on the 15th of September. No, on the 12th of September. I'm sorry, on the 12th of September it became available. And so maybe it's what version because I would expect it on your iPad.
Yeah,
And
my iPad is model iPad 9th generation iPad, and the software version is 15.7.
For my wife, she had to specifically go to a website to download it to do the upgrade. It was not you could not do it as just an update.
16. Let's see what the almighty Google says.
That was a couple weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Well, they've had the developers beta available since June.
Yeah, this was after the developers and the regular version came out is when she did it.
Okay, here's what Mac Rumors says. iOS 16 is compatible with the iPhone 8 and newer. iPad 16 is compatible with iPad 5th generation and later, Mini 5th and later, iPad Air 3rd generation and later, and all iPad Pro models. So you're gonna get it. It's gonna end up being released on your device. Let's see. Let's see if the almighty Google has a better answer. Us cannot find. Let's see if there's something here. How to fix iOS 16 update not showing in settings. Oh, and they do the 6 ways to, here we go, 6 ways to fix iOS 16 update not showing up from a source that I'm not familiar with. We checked compatibility, so that's not an issue. Check the Apple servers. That seems like a silly thing to do when we can see it on other devices. Have you tried restarting your devices anytime recent, Cheryl? I mean, have you done a hard shutdown and restart? You might, like, you're not using the phone in your hand for this meeting. You could do the shutdown where you slide it on the red and it shuts itself all the way down, and then you hold the button until you see the Apple and it starts back up. And you might do that real quick. Yeah.
I had to do that just the last couple of days because this is connected to my glucose monitor right now. And so, no, I have shut down my phone. I don't know what the last time I did my iPad. So.
What model phone do you have, out of curiosity?
Oh, a 6S. It's old.
So
it's not even going to come available to that one.
Yeah, it's not going to be available on the 6S. Only 8 and higher, so you're not going to see it on the phone. But the iPad, I would expect it on. And so you might try hard shutting down the iPad and letting it restart back up. That's one of the tips here. And one of the tips is reset your network. I'm not sure I would talk you into that. Just because I don't expect that to be the problem. If you're in the beta, but you're not, most normal people are not in the beta. But it's saying remove the beta profile. Update your device via iTunes. Well, this is a way to do it if all else fails. But and it's not that big of a deal if you end up connecting it to a computer and using iTunes. Because I want you to do that to make a backup of it as well, and you can just do both at the same time. Here is a link to this article of tips, like what was it, 5 tips, 6 ways to sort out ways to fix iOS 16 update not showing up on your devices. So this is basically saying you should be seeing it if you're compatible. And if you're not, here's a couple of things to check, but the things to check, they're not actually, they're very unlikely to be the problem. And they absolutely would be the problem, but it's unlikely that you're having that problem, if you follow what I mean. Here I'm trying to add this article to our document too. Copy. So there's nobody running on 16 right now. I do know one guy that's running on it, but he wasn't able to give me very much information. He's just relearning some stuff. What it does bring to you, if you haven't been paying attention to what 16, one of its big selling points is the lock screen, which is very appealing to Android users. If they were interested in switching over, it would give them a more comfortable environment to configure themselves. Having switched to an iPhone over the summer, there is a little bit of sympathy I have for Android users coming to iOS. There are some limitations in the kind of configurations you can do that you just suck it up, because that's you got to do it the way Apple does it. And I've just had to learn to work with that. But what I see in 16 is your start menus and your lock screens, your desktop style environment, your lock screen, you have a lot more control over. Before, we had a very small assortment of widgets that we could configure on the iOS screens. And now there's just all this different types of configurations we can do, as well as on-the-fly background images and widgets that sit on your lock screen that we didn't really get to have any choice in up till now. Up till now, there are certain things that show up on the lock screen, like you might be looking at your battery percentage or the time. If you're listening to something, either music or podcasts, a player would appear on the lock screen that you could control without unlocking the device. But with this iOS 16, there's just a whole array of different widgets that you can stick on your lock screen that would include things like weather and international time and things like that you can get access to at a glance. It kind of goes hand in hand with this move in the new devices to have always-on displays. The idea of having widgets of information that would be on a display conveniently always on, so you could just glance over to it for that information instead of having to grab the phone and get into it to find your information.
That's a good example of a battery hog.
Well, isn't that the game? The game is to provide this feature while minimizing battery loss. And you've seen that, Dave. You've seen that in the watches. You know, we had an Apple event just recently where they announced new watches, and one of the things across their watch series, they have the always-on displays now. And with minimal impact to battery life. Or at least that's the way they look at it. Who knows what the battery life of a new Apple Watch would be if it didn't have an always-on display. But they're getting fairly impressive for their device. They get like 30 hours of constant use out of their standard Apple Watches. And then this new Ultra that they announced, they claim they can get up to 60 hours of battery use. And I'm sorry, I said standard use, but no, you get 30 hours because the watch will switch into a low power mode. And that's how you tweak out the last 30 hours of it, is having a handicapped device on your wrist until you get a chance to charge it. Recently, I wish Sid was with us, because recently him and I got into a discussion about Garmin versus the Apple Watch in the feature set that he was looking for versus what's available in the Apple Watch. And the Garmin is a really impressive device. Getting days of battery life, measured in days, not hours. Even though 60 hours for the latest Apple Watch Ultra, which is what they're pitting up against the Garmin. It's their rugged outdoor adventure dive watch. In fact, in the link of stuff that I've got here, I've got a link to a news article that is an interesting video watch of iFixit tearing down the new watch to see how repairable it is. And so it gives you a good view of the watch, and it gives you a good view of how it's put together. And you get their opinion. iFixit is a trusted source when you're listening to these guys talk about repairability as they're tearing it down. They're great ones to listen to. They have a lot of experience, and just the repairability of this watch is pretty difficult. Definitely cannot do the repair without special tools and replacement parts ready. And they actually broke the screen on this. It was their first teardown, but they were not able to pull it apart the first time without breaking the screen on the watch. So the video is really easy to watch, and it's got some real interesting stuff on this new rugged active watch that Apple is obviously pitting against the Garmin dive watch. If you had any interest in this kind of stuff from the active dive watch perspective, one of the disadvantages of the new Apple Watch is that it's relying on a dive computer manufacturer who's created an app specifically for the watch. So you quite literally can have your dive computer on your smartwatch. However, that will be a subscription service. And that's what most watch fanatics are talking about right now. The Garmin, actually, it's all built in. It's part of their sales package. Whereas if you want to compare this watch to the Garmin for specifically diving, you're not going to get that as part of the package. You're going to buy that separately. And it's got a yearly subscription cost to it. Which reminds me of Dad's auto start on his car that he found out later. You'd have to pay a subscription fee to hit a button that's on his car to start up. So I don't think this is a great looking watch, and people that have money to throw at Apple products will buy it. And maybe they'll take it diving when they go diving on vacation. But I don't think any serious diver is going to go buy this first iteration and think this is going to be my dive computer, especially when they can compare it to the Garmin dive watch, which is really sat in the market for a while now and has proven itself, and there is no subscription that's associated with that usage. But it does make an interesting compare and contrast.
I have a computer problem.
Please, Chester, what do you got?
Well, it may be that I've asked this question before, but recently it's gotten worse. And that is when I'm on Google, if I'm going between videos or closing out a video, it'll freeze up on me. And you have to walk away, get a drink of water, or do something before it'll straighten itself out. It ultimately will get back to normal, but in the meantime, you've lost a few minutes waiting on it.
Did you say that this is YouTube?
It happens not so much on YouTube as on Google. When I'm on, let's say, Facebook, looking at videos on Facebook and switching from one to the other, uh, it's primarily when I'm on Google.
When you're
I think
you're using Google Chrome,
yeah, Google
and
Chrome.
and you're in Facebook, and Facebook has a whole slew of videos now, and you can just spend your time like programs all the way to silly videos. And what you're saying is when you're going through that carousel of videos,
Now,
that
let's say I'm trying to discontinue a video. So
like you're
I hit,
hitting the X to close it, or you're clicking on another video,
no, I'm trying to close it,
the X.
and it'll freeze up.
It'll just freeze up. And will it do that like frost over in white?
No, it just a little thing keeps going round, 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 and it takes maybe up to 5 minutes before it catches up with what it's going to do.
Wait, Chester, a really easy thing to suggest would be to dump all your cookies and your previous history. Like go into your Google Chrome browser under history and choose to just wipe it out. This won't wipe out any passwords that you have saved there, but there will be certain things that'll be different because you may have to sign back in to your websites. They won't
So
just
that's Google history.
Well, it's Chrome, in Chrome under the, well, here, I'll show you on my screen if you can see it. Under the ellipsis button over in the right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner, there's those 3 dots. And your option here is history. And at the top of the history menu is history. Also, just a sidebar, if you hit Control H, it'll bring up history. And that brings up a separate tab of your history. And then there's a column to the left. I don't know if you can see it on my screen. There's a column to the left. And at the bottom of that column is clear browsing data. And when you click on that, it takes you to the settings page. And there's a time range at the top. And I would say if you haven't done this recently, you probably want to just wipe everything out. And just, you might find there are other things that aren't looking the way they were supposed to, and it's because things have changed and you have this cruff left that isn't getting updated, that was supposed to get updated.
Now, I'll do that.
Yeah, and that might just resolve your problem. If it's not as easy as that, then we would want to pursue more what's going on with your browser. Are you having file corruption problems? You might even, if that doesn't clear it up, I think the next thing I would do is I would make sure that you've got the latest version of Chrome installed. It's supposed to install automatically. And the way to verify that you've got the latest version of Chrome is to go up to that same ellipse. And at the bottom of that first menu is the help. And under the help menu, there's one that says about Google Chrome. And I'm putting that on my screen right now. I'm going to click on about Google Chrome, and it brings up a separate tab. And this tab is from settings, and it shows you Google Chrome. If you're looking at my screen, it says an error occurred while checking for updates. Update check failed. Now, I've had that kind of thing pop up. It's very random. All I'm going to do is close that window. I'm just going to try right once again. Let's do about Google Chrome. And you can see the version number. And look, I actually need an update to Google Chrome right now. Something has come out. And I have a good story about updating Google Chrome with this organization in Arizona I've been developing an app for. Probably 2 weeks ago, I started getting hit with the collaborators with, we can't scroll to the right. They've all become dependent on this application I've written, but it formats as a table in a window, and there's data over to the right. And so what they do is they grab the scroll bar and they scroll over to that right information. And one morning we woke up and I get, 3 different reports from heavy users going, we can't get at the information. It won't let us scroll over there. And so I start troubleshooting this problem. They're absolutely right. I experienced the exact same problem. Oh, and our call is about to end. You do have the new code in the document that I hope you've gotten to. So I will see you on the other side. We're about to get disconnected. And I'm here by myself. All right. That was great.
I'm always thrilled when this goes easy for me. Not many things do.
All right.
Cooking. I'm having a low blood sugar.
Oh, I can start.
So I was telling this story about this app and these people that I've been developing it for. At the same time, my Google Chrome has downloaded a new version, and I don't know what version that is. On my screen, I'm looking at the previous version, and at the next restart, I'll get the latest version. And I had no real control over that unless it wouldn't update. And the very first time I went to it, it wouldn't update. And so like I narrated before, I just closed this tab and I went to help about again, and it went ahead and gave it another shot, which you don't do. It does. It just goes out and sees. And if it is now available, it's downloading it, and at relaunch, you'd have the latest version. So Chester, those are the 2 things that I would do immediately before thinking it's any serious problems. I'd clear my history of all of that cruff, and I'd also double check that I have the latest version of Chrome. And to finish my story about the application people is that I started finding that the application worked great in different browsers. It worked great in Safari. It worked great in Firefox, but it did not work great in Google, and it did not work great in Opera, and it worked great in Microsoft Edge. However, I noticed that Opera and Chrome, the same engine update, and Edge did not. And that's kind of cued me into this could be a browser problem. This could be a Chrome problem. And so I reported it to the app framework team that we build the app off of. I also discovered the problem. You could scroll. I mean, all this talk about such a nonsense, I mean, it's silly, but you could scroll to the right. You had to grab the button from the very top of the bar. So if you could visualize, I don't even know if I have a bar here handy to show off, but you're looking at a button. You're looking at a button, and you had to tap on the top of the button, not the middle, but at the very top of the button, and then you could grab the bar and you could scroll it, which is obviously a design interface issue that came along with a Chrome update. And immediately, like the next day, there was another Chrome update, and the problem was resolved. So it's always good to double check and see if your browser is up to date. There could be a glitch. They update these things so frequently. You could end up getting another update twice in a day because they updated it and found a glitch like the one I reported, and they immediately have to fix that.
Well, I have a website recommendation that I think most people should try.
All right.
It's securityplanner.consumerreports.org.
Security planner.
You don't have to be a member. If you answer the questions of what devices you have, how you do your lifestyle, what's important, you can do everything at once or one at a time. And it gives you very good recommendations of how to improve your security so you don't avoid the phishing, the password problems, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm bringing it up right now.
It's securityplanner.consumerreports.org.
It is a consumer, yeah, it is. It's securityplanner.consumerreports.org. Let me just quickly paste it in our in-call messages. So if you guys are interested in looking along, that's the one. Do we have to set up any kind of account? Which of the following do you use?
But it's free.
iPhone, Android,
And in
Mac,
my case,
Windows,
I have a disabled account
smart
with them
TV, smart speaker, smartwatch, gaming console. That's interesting. I don't have a security camera at the moment. Protect myself from ransomware.
Somebody's watching you.
Data being stolen. Use my public Wi-Fi. Prevent identity theft. Report an online account safe. Private ad. What do you want to do? Keep people from seeing my screen. Avoid phishing scams. Lock down social media. This is wild. So it's going to give me suggestions on how I should behave after this.
Yeah, I started with just one because I wanted to see my important stuff and not have it give me too much crud at once.
All right, let's see what happens here. Finally, are any of these statements true? I want to learn about shielding my identity. My account has been hacked. I'm the victim of identity theft. I'm concerned about online harassment or stalking. I'm worried about government or law enforcement accessing my data. I face additional risk because of who I'm dealing with an urgent digital none of this. I mean, none of that is true right now in my world. 44 tips.
Yeah, you do have to create the account if you don't already have one, even if you're not a current paid up member.
Hey, it's asking if I want to be a paid up member, but it's given me the tips.
Yeah. It'll give you much better, I think, report if you tell them what, so then you can download it and save it and do stuff.
Well, that's fun. Because each one of these tips, like get a password manager, we've been talking about a LastPass for a couple years now. That's a password manager, but password managers are built in to Chrome and all the modern browsers, as well as Firefox as a standalone password manager, if I remember right.
Yeah, if you click on one, then it'll give you a far more detailed explanation. And like one of the things for securing your financial thing is they have an explanation of locking your account with the 3 credit app,
Oh yeah, the
versus freezing it. And basically locking is they define what happens. Freezing, it's government regulated and they must.
Oh, wait, say that again. You're saying that locking is a thing that agency does for you, whereas freezing...
And they control it. They make it very easy to do. Freezing, they make it difficult, but then they are responsible if there's a problem, and it's government regulated. So they highly recommend freezing. Do not lock your credit bureau stuff.
That's interesting.
So if you go to the detailed explanations, that's where I thought the interesting information is.
To freeze credit. Well, this looks like a great research tool. Did I stick it
Yeah.
in?
And to me, I trust Consumer Reports recommendations far more than most things I see on the internet where the person is writing an article because they want to see how many views they can get for a few bucks.
Right. I'm adding this to today's document. If Emily continues to transfer this, it'll be on the website. But I leave these documents, so if you continue to keep your link to the document, you can always have access to it.
Could we get the name again?
It is securityplanner.consumerreports.org. And Chester, I did paste it into the chat if you're looking for, look under in-call messages, and you should see the link right there. And I've just added it under our recommendations section under websites. So if you maintain access to these documents, then you can pick it up from that document. And security, another one of these articles that I have is talking about the new security available in iOS 16 called passkeys. And this isn't uniquely Apple, but it's been integrated by Apple, Microsoft, and Google. And this we've talked about briefly in the past is the new way to ditch passwords. And so the idea, this article from CNET, dump passwords on your iPhone, Apple's new iOS 16 feature is more secure. This article is one where they are going through all the benefits of switching to this passkeys paradigm. And it's based on encryption in a style that we have used in the past for years that's solid and proven. The idea being that you are authorizing with a separate device, and it's done in this style of public-private keys. And so towards the end of this, they go into kind of your experience and what you're going to have in less than a year. You're going to start running into this is you will be able to sign in with a username or password or use a passkey. You click on the passkey and an announcement will come on your phone saying, are you authorizing access from this device to get into this service? And you would say yes, and then you'd go through a biometric authentication. There would be no password to type in. You would be providing Face ID or thumbprint ID. I don't know if it's intended to work with a PIN, even though I know the paradigm of the equipment could be made to work with a PIN to put in. But the point is there isn't a password on that site that you're keeping track of. You're using your biometric data, the data that's in your particular device, to authorize your access on that server. So there are some possible downfalls on this. If you don't have your device, it's like not having your little black book of passwords using this passkey system. That being said, that also is where a lot of this security has, because even though it's acting like a little black book of passwords, it's like a little black book of passwords that only you can get into, even if you do lose your device. So there's a lot of good details in this article talking about passkeys from CNET. The article's title makes you think that it's about iOS 16, but it's really the point is that iOS 16 is introducing the new passkeys. And we're going to see it in the latest iterations of Android as well as on Apple services, or I'm sorry, Microsoft services like Outlook and anything out and Xbox, where you're going to have the option to there not being any particular password, and your access and authentication will be based on the device you have and your ability to authenticate on that device. This article has I don't know if you guys can see that very well. Maybe I should zoom in. Get that thing out of here. This is kind of an example. Do you want to save a passkey for this account in your Apple account? This would be very similar to you would use your iCloud keychain. It would go across your, I mean, in an Apple world, it would go across your Apple devices. So when you stuck your passkey biometric information in one device, then your ability to authorize in other devices would be there as well. So you essentially, if you set it up on your for some new service on your phone, and you went at that new service from your iPad, it would send to your phone, give me a face recognition or a fingerprint to make it okay to go on the iPad. Just as an example of how Apple plans on having these things, use your iCloud account to share this access amongst your devices. One of the questions a lot of people ask about these passkeys is, am I getting into a specific ecosystem? If I start using passkeys with Apple, am I using them always with Apple? Or if I get into them using Microsoft, am I always using them with Microsoft? And part of the standard they've put together, these three organizations and others came together to come up with this concept, and they're supposed to be universally transferable. So part of building passkey software is the ability to accept and hand off the responsibility of these passkeys to other tools. So if you're in an Apple tool, yeah, you're using an Apple tool, but if you want to move over to an Android tool, a Google tool, then that transfer of biometric authentication is supposed to be frictionless. Of course, to get started, I never expect anything to be frictionless. I recently transferred the telephone number from a landline for the bed and breakfast to a cell line I could take to Mexico with me, and that was far from frictionless, and we are years in to the FCC declaring that that they must be able to do this. If you've forgotten what I'm talking about, I've ranted about it before. I think that it's the one of the greatest examples of how regulation can affect what we as consumers expect from technology, and your ability to bring a phone number from one service provider to another is amazing, because it is not inherent in the technology at all for you to be able to do that, but you are able to do it because us as a society and a community said, we're going to regulate it. We're going to force these carriers to have that ability for us as consumers, and they have to do it. And so it is not frictionless. But we are moving towards a time when it will be frictionless because they have to do it. And it's a pain for them as much as it's a pain for us. It is a justifiable pain given the nuances of technology to bring your phone number from one service to another. But we need it. And so we've regulated it, and the industry has to comply with it. And if we weren't regulating it, they wouldn't. They would not comply with it. Well, I'm kind of all over the board at the end of this meeting. I've run out of news topics, but we did get a little bit into recommendations, and I would be interested in hearing from any of you if you're watching, reading, using, visiting, anything that you'd like to share with the rest of our group. Is there anything out there that we should not be missing out on?
I watched Vengeance. It was a movie that was released last year. It was
BJ Novak, right?
okay. Yeah, he's a journalist. He gets this notification that a woman has died or been killed or something in Texas that had told everybody he was her boyfriend. And he just remembers meeting her or having a one-night stand or whatever. And yeah, it was quite interesting. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed
We
it
saw a
as
good
well.
movie.
Vengeance.
Yeah, we saw a good movie.
Oh, yeah, Chester, go ahead.
It was When the Crawdads Sing.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that one last week, Chester. It followed the book really, really well. Sandy and I were talking about it. We both read the book, and yeah, it's an interesting show, isn't it?
Yes.
I liked Vengeance. I liked BJ Novak. I liked the stuff he did in The Office. That's probably what he's best known for. But I thought it was a very thoughtful film and pretty relevant for this day and age. It got into the online dating, just that whole genre, and the podcasting journalism kind of movement that's going on right now. How much interest there is in that he was able to come up with a story out of this girl he could barely remember that died, telling her family that he was the love interest. I have not gotten to see When the Crawdads Sing yet. I should take a moment and watch that. Is there any other recommendations? Books, apps, shows?
Not sure if Bill's going to talk about Andor.
I got it on the list, Bill. Are you there?
I'm there.
Are you?
It seems to me it's a slow start, but maybe it's because there's there's not a bunch of flying starships and battle stars and stuff. It seems to be more character driven than special effects.
I agree with you. I think one of the characteristics that makes Star Wars is this episodic approach to every movie, where you dump in and you're halfway through a story. So many times you'll start a story and maybe you've got lasers shooting at you, or rockets taking off, or people attacking, but something has been going on, and it's like you've dropped into episode 4 of some arc that you're on. Something was going on. There's the story you're joining, and then when you leave the story, other stuff will be going on, like a continual world where you just kind of enter a window. And this is the first property I think is really, really just goes away from that format. Like, we are really getting to know this person that we've already heard. I thought it was really well done. And it does feel like a slow burn. What you got, Mom?
All right. I do have something for some people. I don't know if it'll work for any of you, but I was thumbing through on, wait a minute. I think it was, where do you go when you want anything?
Google?
In terms of movies and stuff.
Oh, Streamio.
Streamio.
Or Cody.
Or,
Internet, IDMB.
Terry, what were
Internet
you on?
data movie base.
All right. Anyway, I think you can find it on whatever this is, and I'll think of it by the time I'm finished here, I hope. It's a military story. So when you go in, you find it by going to British naval history. It's on YouTube. There, thank you. Couldn't find that. Anyway, it's about Captain Cochrane, and he has a bigger title at the end of this story. But he's a Scottish, a fairly reasonable, wealthy, his family Scottishman who wants to go to sea when he's very young. And the whole story is told in somebody is reading the history of this, and they have things that you can watch on the TV, but it's not live. It's I don't know what you call that style, but anyway, it's all about this British captain, because his dad first puts him in the army, and that didn't work at all, and he begs his dad to please put him in the Navy. And so he finally gets in the Navy. He's finally, and I don't know what age he exactly is, but he's 17 when he finally gets on a ship and has some responsibilities. He as he matures, you listen to the things as he matures. So he finally has a ship of his own, and he's off. And I'll tell you what, it is like a pirate. He's called the Wolf. He scares all the ships in the Mediterranean and down the south of Africa. And he even comes over and works in Peru and Chile and helps them kick out their oppressors. It's done at about, he comes on right about the time the Revolutionary War is over, and it's forming a government in the United States. So
is it Thomas Cochrane, craziest sea captain in history?
You got it.
All right, I found it.
Dad watched it last night. He's really not keen on these kinds of shows, but I was so amazed when I first watched it at this captain and how clever he was, and how many ships he would take in just one little dash out to help somebody. He'd wipe out half of a group of naval ships from a enemy group. It's just really smart, pirate-like, clever, with the least amount of help from anyone else. I thought it was a history I didn't know. Maybe some of you do, especially you Canadians. But I found it quite fascinating, even though it's done slightly dully. For your father, anyway. He fell asleep once. But he came to for the exciting parts.
So this movie's a documentary style, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah, and
it's like somebody's reading pages out of an autobiography, and then out of a history. They've kind of gathered all the facts.
I put the YouTube link in our in-call messages, and I added it to our document. Because it's on YouTube, you can just go to it directly and watch it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for finding that, Scott.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my contribution this week.
And the name?
It's called Thomas Cochrane, Craziest Sea Captain in History. And Chester, if you're looking for the link, just go down to the chat with everyone. And I just put the link to the YouTube video right there.
I don't like war, but I do love watching it on the big screens and the cleverness that they think of. I know it's not true, but I think this is, It'd be nice to see a real reenactment of some of his battles.
Well, if no one has any other to add, is there any applications you're using recently that we should know about? Anything new? Something you've installed recently you've found some joy out of? I've recently installed Amazon Photos on my new iPhone because I'm running out of Google Cloud space, because I don't want to pay for Google space. And so I set up the Amazon Photos app on my new iPhone, and it gave me access to the entire library of photos I'd already put up in Amazon Photos. And it is a recommendation that we've made in the past. If you're an Amazon Prime member, and at this point in our history, it's hard to imagine ever not being a Prime member, then they give you an unlimited amount of space for photos. Okay, videos, no. If videos, they give you 5 gigabytes, and I just turn off videos, telling myself I'm just going to take a risk with the videos. But the photos, at least I know wholeheartedly that every photo that I own is up in the cloud under my Amazon account in case something goes wrong. I will not lose those photos. And let's be fair, with a lot of us, those are the things that you want to hang on to. You don't care about the documents you wrote. You really care about those photos, and everything's digitalized now. So I personally, outside of any personal security issues that you have, outside of all that, you got to keep all that in mind. I'm always looking for a way to get one more backup of all my photos so that there's never a chance I'm going to lose them. And for that, I like Amazon Photos because it's part of my Prime account, and I can put unlimited photos of unlimited quality up into their servers. So this app is very easy to install in your iDevice. It's very easy for me to say only photos, and I just let it recognized all the new stuff as opposed to what's already there, and just uploaded all the new stuff to my Amazon account.
So would you recommend that above iCloud?
Well, not necessarily, but I would recommend, it's an easy recommendation. Like I said before, I don't pay for iCloud. I don't pay for Google. So if you're not going to do those things, then by all means, you do this, because without a doubt, you're paying for Prime. There's so many people, I imagine, like me, that's like trying to cut down their monthly subscriptions, but nobody's given up on Prime. If you've signed up for Prime, you're not going to quit Prime. They just keep adding features like this to it. This is almost like a side effect of having Prime, kind of like having movies out there to watch on Amazon is kind of a side effect of you wanting cheap shipping. And so I would take full advantage of it. The iCloud subscription is probably one of the most expensive subscriptions, and so many people try to limit it down to maybe 50 gigabytes. They've also got a 200 gigabyte, and they've also got a 2 terabyte. 2 terabyte, if you've got a computer that's full of your work, it would make sense to have an iCloud account that you could sync all that work to, and it would end up including your photos as well. But if you're not doing things like that, there's a very good chance you have a very limited iCloud account, and that's not where you'd want to put your photos. So the Amazon Prime is a good place to put it. Hey, Linda, you're coming in right as we're closing this out. I heard a message that you're having some confusions about the invites. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I just came home from a pulmonary test, so I thought I'd see if you guys were still on.
We are, but I was just shutting down the meeting. You got any recommendations or news you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
Not a thing.
Wait,
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
This Amazon Prime, we order things when we're in Mexico. We order things when we're in Canada. Do we need 2 Prime accounts?
You need 2 Prime accounts for their digital offerings, like music and videos. If you want full access to their catalog, say you're in Canada, if you want full access to their Mexican catalog, then you have to pay for Mexican Prime. Otherwise, what you have access to is what the Canadian Prime makes available to you internationally, and it's a much smaller catalog.
Okay, my question is that when I'm in Canada, with a Canadian account, I get that. And then if I take that same account to Mexico, do I get the Mexican one?
No,
No,
you
okay.
don't. It's a separate. And what we've found through the years is the shipping. If we're talking about shipping, it's very questionable. Every item that you might want to order in Mexico, it's questionable whether it is cheaper to use Mexican Prime and order it on the Mexican side of things versus, in my case, the US side being exported to Mexico using Prime. I find more so now than in the past, I find myself often comparing whether it needs to be imported on the Mexican side, if that price is actually a better price than doing the export from the US side. And so many times I will, if I'm looking at an imported item in Mexico, I will immediately go over to the US Prime and see if that export price is better. And it's each one is different.
As a general rule of thumb, Amazon, if the price is over $50, then they add in the import fee. But if the price is under $50 coming from the US, it just comes through automatically and very, very quickly. In my case, in San Carlos, what they do is they ship out of the San Diego warehouse, do cross-border to Tijuana, and it's here in a day or two with no extra fees.
And
if
$50 is a hard number.
Huh?
Is that $50 a hard number? Like if it's 51, it's this. If it's 49, it's that.
I think so. I read that somewhere, and it's just been my observation. Every time I try to buy more than $50, oh yeah, now the shipping and stuff import gets more expensive. Otherwise it seems like it's somewhat a wash between what you're paying a few bucks for shipping versus the tax differences.
I use Amazon Prime Mexico on my TV here in the States. It's only running me $45 a year.
That's right. You had told us about that in the past. Yeah.
But I don't buy anything. And in the States, if you wait 3 days, you get it for free anyway, shipping. So I don't worry about it.
Hey, one more thing with Amazon. Has anybody watched The Rings of Power?
We are watching.
We are totally up to date. We binged it all over the weekend. I was highly impressed. It was a lot of fun, very entertaining, felt very Tolkien. The only thing, I think people are hating on it for the wrong reasons. I think there's racists out there. I think there's racists out there.
I would be hating on it because I need to make notes because I'm having a hard time following it, and I'm just blaming it on my age. But yeah, we've got some interesting characters. I'm questioning where it all fits together. Bill believes that the giant guy that the Harfoots are involved with is going to be Gandalf, and I'm having a hard time following that theory. But anyways, it's an interesting show. We are watching. I don't think we're up to date. Are we? Oh yeah, we are. And it comes out on Friday? Yeah.
Well, is it possible for him to be Gandalf? I entertained that thought for a moment, but this is supposed to happen like 2,000 years before Lord of the Rings. So Gandalf would have to be pretty impressive to be around 2,000 years later.
Bill, do you have something to say about that? He's questioning it because of the timeline, the 2,000 years.
What do you mean?
Gandalf, that he doesn't know that he could be Gandalf.
I don't know if Gandalf, like Merlin Easily could be a 2,000 year stretch, but I don't know enough about Tolkien to know whether Gandalf could be 2,000 years old.
Yeah, I think so.
Bill thinks so.
Yeah.
He's sticking with it.
All right. All right. Well, we'll.
Yeah, interesting characters, and he also believes that the Harfoots are going to find the Shire and settle there and stop all this migration. But
I believe the same thing. I I don't know whether it'll be called a shire, but I think you're right. I think what we're looking at is we're looking at the nomadic tribes of the original hobbits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed it. It's been funny to watch in social media because people are really hating on it. Amazon actually turned off their review system because it had one of the highest 5-star and one of the highest 1-star reviews. And so it's obvious I think there's a lot of racists out there because, to be fair, there is a lot of, you see a lot of brown and white people together, couples. And so it's fodder for people to hate on it. And it's been funny to watch because they're like, it's not accurate. They're saying, like it's all based on Europe back in, well, I mean, it was written by a white guy during World War II. So I like Trevor Noah's comment that it's unimaginable that he would be thinking about black people. A white English guy writing stories, why would that be in his imagination? But at the same time, I heard, and I don't read Tolkien, but I heard that Tolkien describes specifically elves and hobbits of varying colors. And so, if anything, it could be very accurate. I feel like, though, in that respect, it was very obvious that they were making a point of inclusion, and I think that took you a little bit out of the narrative.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with that. Like, there are elves and humans that are by species, not supposed to be biracial.
Yeah, I mean, because like the races we're talking about in this story are elves and dwarves and orcs and hobbits, right?
Yeah.
Those are we're not talking about different skin color people. We're talking about these actual different races.
Different species.
Different species, yeah.
Oh, there's an elf behind you.
Yes. No, that's my wizard.
Look at that. It's Gandalf himself. The white wizard.
Hey, are you back in San Carlos?
Are you talking to me? I'm back in San Carlos. I'm the only one in the group right now back in San Carlos. This is our first meeting from San Carlos.
Oh, Dave hung up. I was going to ask him something.
Yeah, when Dave was here, the two of us are in San Carlos.
Oh, okay.
And the rest of us are working our way, making plans and yes, finishing up things here. Had a very interesting week. I think I mentioned last week how this is the time of the year when you have to make sure that anything that's going to expire while you're away gets updated and all that stuff. So we go in to get our driver's licenses renewed because they both expire on our birthdays. And there's this window of opportunity. 6 months prior, you can early renew. So I've been waiting. But then when we went in, I found out that, you get a temporary one and the other one's going to be mailed to you. It takes about 7 to 10 business days. Well, we have a new holiday in Alberta or in Canada, which is on the 30th of September. So that's a Canada Post holiday. And then Thanksgiving is in there. So when I thought I had, 15 business days, I actually only had 12. So we're really, really crossing our fingers that everything comes in when it's supposed to come in, but it's been a little stressful. So heads up, guys.
And Billy.
And because Billy turned 75 on his birthday, there was this added little surprise. You have to go to the doctor and have a medical done for $120, cash only. So
fun.
Leaving him in the waiting line at the doctor's office while I run to the bank and try and find cash. And then it was just a surprise. It's not going the way you thought it was going to.
Cash? How would anybody even deal with that? You got to go find a bank machine.
Yeah. Well, I actually had to go to the bank, but anyways.
Well, Billy dealt with it very well. He's very calm and Cheryl is the one that gets scattered on this.
I can bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sat
Yeah.
in the waiting room waiting to see a doctor when they don't make appointments anymore. Everybody just has to, walk in and
Right.
wait. So,
It's the way it is. Hey, I got sick like in January, and look at this now. It's almost October, and I still don't know what's wrong with me.
Oh, Linda, I'm sorry to hear that.
They still give you like, you go to the appointment, then it's 3 more months, then it's 3 more months. It's just ridiculous.
yeah.
So I still don't know what's wrong with me, but now I'm on an inhaler, and we'll see if that's going to help.
Is it
Well, good luck
COVID
with
related,
that.
Linda?
No, I didn't have COVID.
No.
It's funny that this started in January, but they think I have, I either have COPD or I have asthma. They're not sure.
Hmm.
So we'll see now if this new steroid inhaler will work. Now my face will probably get more fat than it already is. So anyway, travel safe, Cheryl, whenever you're leaving.
Yeah. And we'll see people in San Carlos when we get there.
Yeah, this has
Okay.
turned
Are you
into a.
bringing the RV?
No, we're not bringing the RV. We're taking the RV this week because we're going to Southern Alberta for a celebration of life. I always forget what to call these things. But yes, we're going to, our sister-in-law passed away in 2020, so we're finally all getting together this weekend. So we're taking a motorhome, but we're also taking the truck and the trailer that we didn't get sold so that the other family, the rest of the family has a place to stay. So.
Hey guys, I hate
Okay.
to do this, but we got to cut this meeting down. This has been a long meeting. It's been really good seeing all you guys. I will be here next week, and
Okay.
hopefully I'll be doing it from Tequila's because this was a very successful test of this setup. And I will hopefully get over to Tequila's over the next week and test their internet, make sure they're ready. And I think I'm going to try and do an in-person meeting. If it's not with anybody but myself, that's where I'll be broadcasting from.
Okay.
Scott,
See
how
you
long does
later.
it take you to set it up?
If everything's successful, I can do it in about 30 minutes. Why do you ask?
Oh, just wondering your time commitment. How about the takedown the same or? is
Yeah,
it
probably
longer?
about the same. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's an hour.
Okay.
All
We'll
right.
see you guys later.
All right, you guys.
Bye.
See you
I look
later.
forward to seeing Tequila. I'll almost taste the breakfast.
Yes, you have to have a chilaquile.
Almost.
We look forward to having all you guys back.
Well, you have a chilaquiles and tell us all about it.
I will.
He doesn't eat chili.
Okay.
All right, guys. Tech on. Adios, Mom.
Bye.
Love
Are
you.
you helping me now or?
Oh
do
yeah.
all we-
Let's let me finish this off. I'll contact you shortly.
Okay.
Let me get off of this and I'll contact you shortly. All right. Well, there we are. We did it again. This was very successful. I'm very happy with the results of this. These two laptops look like they're going to do the work for us. And as long as we have a decent internet connection, we should be able to do an in-person meeting and broadcast from our favorite place at Tequila's. So I will be getting a hold of them this week and verifying that we've got good internet there. And hopefully we'll be doing our next meeting from Tequila's. Once again, let me say this is Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions. And if you're out there on the internet looking for a solution, look my direction. I can probably help you find it. You can get a hold of me, Scott, at internationalcs.net. Or if you're interested in the Computer Club and these recordings, we got a YouTube channel, we got a Twitter account, we got all that kind of stuff. So just check us out at sccclub.org. Until next Tuesday at 10, everybody, tech on.